Welcome to Caribbean Millennials. Welcome to episode 76 of the Caribbean Millennials podcast. What?
We did not die. I know we've been missing for a couple, it's like 1 week we were gone. I feel like 1 week we're missing.
I don't even know. But guys, we're 2 years old.
Oh my God, congratulations. Woohoo.
Break out the alcohol. The light juice.
Right? You know? the aged grape juice.
The martinis.
Grape juice.
The grape juice, yeah.
All right. So how's everyone, Vernon? How's your is it the week? Is it 2
Let's
weeks?
see. So Helen, I have a story for you.
Okay, let's go.
Story
Last
time.
week, your boy decided he going into work because I had my one-on-one with my boss. Now, I could have done my one-on-one from home, but I was like, nah, I about that, I want to look my boss in his eye, have my
As a
one-on-one.
normal baby,
And say, so
Ballsy.
went to work, hated every minute of it. I was like, why did I leave my house for this? I could be taking a nap right now, still being productive at home. Fine, that's whatever. One-on-one went great, perfect, awesome. Your boy killing it, They want to pay me more money. I tell them hold off for a while. I'll get the company going, because I might want some, a bigger salary. But that's a later discussion, right? Okay. So I'm at home this week. I think maybe like Tuesday or Monday. One of those days, right? And an email comes in on my phone. Open the email. Somebody in the office had corona.
Oh my God.
The week I was in the office, someone had corona.
No.
That's what I get for trying to be a good employee and want to look my boss in his eye to do my one-on-one. I almost exposed myself to corona. So
For a second there, I thought you were going to say, and your boss was the one with corona. Like, I thought that's where it was going.
If he was the one with corona, game over. I killed him.
Well, head a joke. What happened to your boss on Friday?
So here it is. So after the email comes in, he's talking to us on Teams, and for some reason, he making jokes about the whole corona thing, and I don't like it because I take this thing very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, it's not as serious as everyone making it to seem. Plus, it's only killing old people. Whatever." He's like, "Honestly, I wish I would just get it so I can get the antibodies."
Mm-hmm.
So your boy over here, I'm like, "Oh, really? Okay, you should just get it." Huh, interesting. And my mom like, see, that's why I don't want to go back there because I don't know what you're doing. I don't know you're dragging your ass. Okay, so. That's about the Monday, Tuesday. Yesterday, he's like, guys, I'm going to log off early. I don't feel so well. The first thing I type in the team chat, coronavirus.
He put a Cardi B gif in the...
Oh my God.
I don't get why people not taking this corona thing more serious.
No, they're not. No, they are not.
And we're seeing the numbers spiking,
Florida.
Giving round 2.
Florida. 4,000 cases in a day. Florida.
Florida, what y'all doing, man?
Well, Florida is a different beast, though. Florida's just always crazy in everything, violence up, corona.
That's what happens
up,
when
everything.
you have so many Florida men in one
Florida is a whole, that's another planet down there. Florida probably broke up from some extraterrestrial planet and landed and attached itself to the US.
I have a feeling when the Spanish sold Florida to the US, they put some juju on it. They just
Them men were happy to get rid of Florida, dog.
You'll enjoy it, man. You'll
But
enjoy
y'all
it.
never listen to Donkey of the Day on the Breakfast Club?
Say that again?
Donkey of the Day on the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne.
Oh.
So every single, I think 90% of the stories come from Florida.
Yep.
No, seriously, it's always the craziest things. And the other 10% comes from the Bronx. But Florida takes it all.
I suspect there's something in the water down there.
Maybe.
Not sure.
All
yet.
the waters.
All the waters.
The Everglades.
Yeah. So that was my week. Anushka. No, I want to hear how a Danny week was, I live with you. I know how your week was. Right, see,
Wow.
I know what you're doing. I can tell everyone what you did and what you've been doing.
Okay.
I'll let you tell her, but I'll tell her what her daddy's been doing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I still love you, you know.
Mm-hmm,
What you do is very important to me.
Very
And that,
important. Oh, hi guys. No, week wasn't that lovely, until Friday, and then
Your week wasn't lovely.
no, it wasn't lovely.
Like,
It wasn't sunshines and rainbows. It rained a lot.
oh wow.
Yeah, but
You
then
don't need
Friday
that
you're
came
in a
rain.
along.
drought. You're in a drought.
You don't
Rain
need
is
that
good.
rain though.
Oh yeah, we need the rain. We just don't need the flooding, but we need the
Wait,
rain.
you're in St. Lucia right now?
Yes, are you in St. Lucia right now?
Yes. Because I was like, wait, drought, rain. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. So where is he?
Oh my God, you're my neighbor.
He got stuck. Yeah.
Yep, I have been here and I am here for this COVID journey through the island.
Wow.
Oh wow.
But yeah, the week was kind of funky, but then towards the end it got really good. Got my stuff delivered from the US and then got some new clients. So got a
Well, there you
whole
go.
construction
Congrats.
company. Yeah, so your boy out here making moves. So yep. And then today I just kind of cleaned my work area, listen to some music,
Fun
just
shit.
relax. Yeah, just find my center, find
Is
my
it
Get it aligning your chakras.
yes, played with some puppies,
oh,
just all
is it
lovely stuff.
is it funny that when you said making moves, I just thought of you dancing too. I don't dance now. I make money moves. Oh,
I just threw a SIM card at Anushka.
it like hit
She
you right
deserve more. She deserve more.
Don't ask where the SIM card came from, guys. Doesn't matter.
well, even if Vinan doesn't care about my
I never
week,
said I didn't care about your week.
Poor
I
job.
said I live with you and I see what you do on a regular, so I know what your week is like.
um, my parents are here. Oh, I feel so
Oh,
loved.
that's
You know,
nice.
mom is taking. I'm like kind of convincing her to take care of the cooking in secret. So I'm like, Mom, help me with this, and then she just does everything.
Yeah, I want your mother to know I have no part in that. If I have to cook, I will cook. Okay, all right. I'm
Have
trying.
you have you taken the opportunity to just look your parents in the eye and tell
But
them
you're not in my
under
house.
my under my roof, my rules?
Opportunity has a percentage itself.
There
Yes.
was something. There was something she was doing, and I said, oh, she was coming from the bathroom and left the lights on. I was like, hello, hello. In this house, we do not keep the lights
Oh
on.
my god. Yo, oh my goodness.
That's why you buy a house so you can tell people these things. You know.
Man, if my mother operates differently, she put me out of that house. I'm serious.
I waiting. I
But you
waiting
know,
for mine to come for me to see. I've been practicing. You know. I practice on a regular. So ask Anushka. I even practice. I go to say to my future children. Like I sit at the table. I say, if you can one of your little friends, just
No, I bet
like
you back in the day when your parents were telling you that you was not appreciating that, but now what
right.
you doing?
yeah.
So
So you know,
sad.
sometimes I'm like, no, Vinny, not in that tone. That's a little too soft. That's a little
Yeah.
more,
A little
authoritative,
more rough.
a little rough. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been cool having them around. I even have my dad has been doing little gardening jobs and whatever around the
Oh,
house and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool having them here. We went to like the pool later on this earlier
They
on
went to
this
the pool.
week.
I couldn't go. I was at work. You know, someone has to stay home and work. You know,
shots fired.
I'm living my best life.
I'm not like other people chilling poolside at 2 o'clock on a Thursday.
Hey, someone's got to do it.
Right.
All right. So, for those of you listening to this beautiful extra voice that we have on here, we are blessed with the presence of the phenomenal St. Lucian powerhouse, Keithlin Caroo. Say hey to the people, Keithlin.
Hi. Hey everyone.
How has your week been? Given did you see it as raining on your parade or showers of blessings?
Well, well, actually, showers of blessings. This week was a little busy because we launched like a virtual academy for rural women. and we're sort of doing like a, because of COVID, we normally do like a 6 month workshop for rural women interested in agriculture, and we do it in person. So the
Mm,
last 6 months we did it from March to September. We did it in Castries in the north of the island, and the entire idea was to do it in the south come
mm.
June. But with COVID, we did it online. So last
Okay.
Wednesday was the official launch of it. And it went well, thankfully. I mean, there are a few hiccups here and there, but thankfully, like it went better than expected.
Awesome. Awesome.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So let me back up for the listeners and just give a better introduction to you, right? Since we kind of went into, your
Intro.
whole stuff. But Keithlin is our friend from secondary school.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
Our homie.
yeah, but since we've gone off and become adults, gone into the world, Keithan has always been somebody that I've kind of looked up to as one of our peers. You have those friends that are just kind of grinding it out and working for the United Nations, starting non-profits, just doing the damn thing. That is Keithlin Caroo,
I
guys.
also started a non-profit, maybe as a Ponzi scheme, but non-profit
You
nonetheless.
have been like too nice, honestly, because Anushka, Vin, and Adani, you all have been people that I've looked up to as well. There's always a thing that they say, like, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. So it's good to have, certain people around you, and it's like inspiring. I mean, I don't have to say it. Look at the podcast and your own individual careers. So I think you're being too nice to me, but you
Well,
definitely
I'm,
need to
I'm still
show
gonna
who are
shower you with blessings, babe. But Keithlin is the founder of a nonprofit called Helen's Daughters. She's St. Lucian like us, and it's an initiative she started how many years ago now, Keithlin?
Coming on 3.5 years now.
Right. So, Helen's Daughters, which focuses on agriculture and women, and is a nonprofit. So
Okay.
she's combining agriculture, technology, women's development in all a nonprofit kind of sphere while carrying on a full time career. So Keithlin, you want to dive in for the listeners and tell us a little bit more about Helen's Daughters, like exactly what is it and how did you kind of get the idea and get started on it?
Okay, so let's see. In a nutshell, Helen's Daughters is more about, I would say, the economic empowerment of rural women. It started off because I come from a rural area. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Waso Babuno. So if you have been there, you'll know it's rural. And and I guess always like coming from a community like far. So when I went to, like Anushka mentioned, secondary school, it felt like two different worlds. Like I would go home and feel like, okay, I'm in one place, and then when I would go to convent, it would be like, especially going to the houses of my other friends, would be like, okay, this is a whole new world. This is different. And I guess when I left St. Lucia and so on and joined the UN, I always, like, I guess most UN staffers, it's always like, I want to change the world, I want to do something good. But for me, it was, I really wanted to focus on St. Lucia and St. Lucia's development. And when I would come back and forth, I just noticed that the community that I grew up in, when I was younger, it was thriving, especially with the agricultural sector still prominent. But then when I noticed, when you line the years up and you see like the focus turn from agriculture to tourism, you sort of saw communities like Foaso and other rural communities sort of like degrade in a way. You'd see high incidences of like teenage pregnancy, like drug abuse, just a bunch violence, like a bunch of things that never usually happened when I was growing up. And then when you start like historically tracking things down, you just notice that, okay, there might be like something to the shift from agriculture to tourism, and less opportunities available in the rural areas. And not to mention, when you look at the stats and so on, you just see that a number of households, like 60% of households, especially in rural areas, are headed by women. And a lot of those women are in, like, the agricultural field. So it was sort of my way of trying to find a solution to getting women, especially women farmers, more access to like larger markets and like training them for it and so on. And yeah, I'll just stop there.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because I think for you growing up in Foaso, you saw it, right? It was right there in front of you. But for many of us, our families come from these agricultural backgrounds and moved away from that, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Minus mine.
So, huh?
Minus mine.
Vernon says minuses because his father still held on, is still
You know?
trying to hold on to
Hey,
all
he
right,
was
farming.
then.
trying.
Yes,
He
I.
was good.
Yes.
Right?
Hold it on.
He's strong. I think.
But like for me, one of the things I've been doing, I've taken as a project that I picked up again in these last few weeks, as my parents have been there, is my family tree and ancestry.
Mhm,
And when I look at both my mom's side and dad's side of the family had agricultural background, right? So
mhm,
my grandfather on my father's side was a overseer on a sugar plantation, right? So he was able to like move up, and it was more like industrial. But when I look at my mom's side of the family, my mother's mom was from Moshi, a completely rural community that was
mhm,
comprised of women sharing this farmland that was shares,
Yeah.
who was married, who wasn't married, and they all had to come together community wise to raise children, feed children, do the agriculture, making coals, all of these kinds of things. And a lot of them not even highly educated. Maybe they just, some of them, made it through to standard six if they were lucky. But a lot of them, agriculture was how they, manage
Yeah.
their families.
mhm,
And then on my grandfather's side, he's from Roblo in Chozel, and his grandfather had the farming land and whatnot, and the same thing that you were describing in Faso has happened in Roblo, right? It
mhm,
used to be these huge communities um, around agriculture, and then as the younger generations kind of came through, um, they weren't in agriculture, right? And they
mhm.
you saw lots of people just sitting by the road, nothing really to do. And then it came that the place just became kind of like a desert land, like nothing's really going on there. It's, the old people that were there and had land died, and
Yeah.
things just
Yeah.
kind of, the people who left Roblo and moved to Castries and started their lives doing other things.
Mhm,
And I feel like not only in St. Lucia, maybe a lot of these other islands as well, there was such of that shift, maybe with tourism, maybe not, that the younger generation did not want to do agriculture, right? Oh, that's hard work. Oh, that's slave people, that slave thing. I want to break my back, doing
mhm.
agriculture. But that was the foundation of a lot of our families, right?
Yeah.
um, and I feel like now we're kind of in a shift where the younger generation is saying, we've put too much into tourism. We need to focus on agriculture.
No wonder why.
But,
Hmm.
but you know,
Sorry, couldn't
Uh,
help myself.
no, no, no.
no,
Hey,
no,
you
no,
feel
no.
free
But
to say it.
I feel like you kind of came in and did the Helen's daughter thing between that shift in rhetoric, right? Where you probably grew up hearing people say, "Oh, agriculture not making sense. Why I want to go into that?" XYZ. And now we're seeing people coming up saying, "Oh, the future of the Caribbean is in agriculture. We need to
But
be able to feed
girlfriend,
out." Huh?
I said girlfriend. Honestly, like it's really annoying. Like, I can't.
Keithlin, I haven't even been talking to you that
Listen,
much, but I know.
listen, Keithlin, I feel your pain. Trust me. Coming from a child of some of a father who's an agronomist who tried
Yes.
to tell people about
Diversification.
diversification and just taking this whole farming thing seriously, and it's like what you were saying was falling on deaf ears, and
Yeah.
no one listened. And then I see the state we're in now.
And probably
So
now he's in like hiding, man. I was like, I had to mention, I have a lot of respect for your dad, and what he's done. No, but no, trust me, I know his pain, but now it's like, I mean, it's a lot of things. Number one, our food import bill is insane.
Yep.
it's
360 million. And in fact, not only St. Lucia, CARICOM on a whole is like
on a
touching
whole.
close to like 5 billion.
What is
Yeah,
that?
I think it's like 4.8 or something like that right now. I mean, then also it's like the diseases that come with the imported foods.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's at
Yeah.
an all-time high. I mean, even like right now, it sort of hit home close because Anushka, as you know, I just lost an aunt,
Mm-hmm.
and it was technically the root cause was high cholesterol and her eating habits and so on. And it's just frustrating because you see the policymakers, the politicians, and everyone talking about agriculture, agriculture, blah blah blah. We need to buy local and whatever else. But then when you really like work with the people on the ground, these people like they're really truly struggling. And there's like farmers that they continue to do it even in their old age just because of the pride of wanting people to eat better and to be aware of what they're eating and to contribute to people. But when you look at what they're actually making, it's like I would have given up a long time ago. You know what I mean? Because they have no support at all. Even though a lot of people like to tout that there's like grants and initiatives and this and that and so on. But it's like just look at how they treat like our vendors and well the state that our
Very
vendors
true.
in for a long time. I mean, it's
Very
just
true.
really a sad situation.
Yeah. So thinking about agriculture and even combining agriculture and the non-profit sector as you have, right? Can you dive into what have been some of your challenges kind of getting Helen's daughters from, straddling both of those sectors? And yeah, so let's go with that, like challenges or what you've had to overcome.
Well, you're not already in St. Lucia doing anything. It's going to take time. Like, I mean, just for example, just getting the organization accredited, getting even a bank account, like that'll take
Mm,
like a year. Um, and also, I think because I deal with women and I deal with women in agriculture, for the grants and funds that come to St. Lucia, it's like as if the two together don't make sense. It's either
mm,
it's women, it's sexual violence, it's domestic abuse, those types of things. If it's
Yeah.
agriculture, it's okay, we're going to focus on these types of root crops and blah 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 and the export market and you know what I mean? But like the
let's
two
talk about the
together,
people.
right, it's like a brain freeze immediately when you tell them about like women in agriculture. Although this year pre-COVID and during is like been a boom. All of a sudden now people are like, oh my God, women are the most marginalized. We need to get this agricultural sector strengthened,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah. And
Corona
so,
has certainly shed the light on a lot of travesties.
I
listen,
mean,
Corona, I mean, I'm not happy about the situation, but in a way, like in the work that I'm doing, it was like, no offense, but the best thing that happened. Because
no,
all of
but
a sudden, go ahead.
yeah. No, no, go ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
No, no, no. As I was just saying, all of a sudden, like one, everyone is staying indoors. Two, their eyes are glued to like social media and stuff like that. And now it's like, okay, on top of well, BLM going on and Corona, people are sort of getting wanting to get a little more socially conscious. From what I can see, it's not as much the shade room and so on that people are paying attention to these
Yeah.
days. So like all of a sudden there's just like an uptick of interest in the field. And then
Mhm.
for St. Lucia too, I mean, we put a lot of our eggs in one basket. particularly like St. Lucia, it's really devastating to see the amount of people that have,
If we
well,
put all
are,
our eggs in the basket.
yeah,
Not a lot in one, all in that one basket. You can
yeah.
say
I mean, I've seen some, I won't mention the agencies, but I've seen some agencies that have created, what they did was they had like job placements for young people, right? And
yeah.
what they did, they prepped them to enter the tourism industry. And it was like 300 and some change young people. They went through a program and everything. 3 months later, all of these kids are like redundant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the word they use now. Like, that's
Wow.
the word of the month in St. Lucia
That's
right
that's
now.
the politically
Redundancy.
correct term. Yeah, the
Redundancy.
redundancy.
Yes,
You
Yeah.
know?
to be
That
politically
what
correct.
coconut. I don't think this is the hotel, but what these hotels are doing, like I understand it's necessary, but like I mean, if this doesn't send a wake up call to our leaders and our citizens, like what
Yeah.
will?
Well, Danny, that's what I was going to say. I don't even blame the hotels. The
No.
hotels are a business. Businesses have to make money. I don't
Mhm.
expect them to give a charity and do things for free. I blame our government and our people, and that's just we make the bed. Now we have
Hmm.
to lay in it.
Yeah,
That's what
Exactly.
happened
but
to us right
oftentimes, right, on social media, I see like people drawing these extreme sides of the spectrum. Like, like if we don't do tourism, then we're just going to do bananas for the rest of our
now.
Doomed.
But
life.
We're
Like,
doomed.
I,
this
like
is
like
what
that's what people are saying, right?
no,
But I'm like, how can we not find a
but
situation in the middle where we have tourism, right? But it's not our sole industry. And then you have
Danny,
these hotels buying
Missy,
bananas and stuff from our local farmers, like they should be doing.
I will take a flight to St. Lucia. I will go up Kazaba and I will go and come back with multiple reports for y'all that will tell y'all the alternatives to just bananas.
Well, and here's the
Of
thing, right?
course.
Agriculture is so much more than just bananas, right?
Hmm.
And it's also so
But
much more than just,
Missy,
growing
it's not that.
crops. It's
Let me draw the picture for you, paint it for you. How we put first we did the same thing with bananas. Put all our eggs in the banana basket, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out when people like Chiquita and them could have do it a larger scale, cheaper.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
it didn't work when people were telling us to go the GMO route. That way our bananas can withstand the different diseases and grow in whatever climate we want and whatnot, so we can sell on a bigger scale. It's not working now that we go fair trade, because now we fair trade and England, the UK don't really want to buy from us, because by the time the bananas make it over there, they ripe, they rot in the boxes. Plus,
Mhm.
we have a lot of people with all these diseases coming on the bananas, and it's just not making the cut.
Yeah.
It didn't work. So
Mhm.
then we turn over to tourism, and we did the same thing. Put all
Yeah.
our eggs in that
Yeah.
basket, and it's the
So
same thing again.
so I want to hear a little bit more about the people, and I mean, Keithlin has carved out, by focusing on rural women,
Yeah,
this niche, and I don't feel, my gut is telling me they're not all banana farmers, right?
they should not all be banana
So
Um,
Keithlin,
farmers.
can you kind of give a
Definitely not.
yeah,
uh,
Keithlin, can you give a profile of what some of the women in your, program or whatever do, and I guess also break down some of the initiatives that
mhm.
you're kind of helping to do
Yeah,
to support them? Like, are you helping them with diversification,
Yeah.
stuff and all of that? And I guess how do they vary from scale to, like, small time local farmers to,
Mhm.
do you have uh female farmers who are
a massive amount of land and they're
um
growing on a large scale.
yeah, like preparing for export and that kind of thing.
Okay, so about 98% of the women, they grow mostly cash crops. Like only a few grow bananas, but it's just like maybe for the household. None of the women like focus solely on bananas. So you'll find most of them like in lettuce, tomatoes, kale, herbs, and then like pineapples, those types of crops and so on. And you find it's like a group of 150 women so far, and you we have women who, there's one particular, she's a full-time teacher, but now she's like as an secondary income, she does it on like backyard gardening on a small scale, and even then she can earn up to an extra like $1,500 a month from what
Yeah.
she's doing, which is just like in her, in the back of her yard and so on. And then we have like large scale women who have been doing this for a while, and what they're trying to really go into is more like the agro processing. Like one woman,
Okay.
she does like local wines, but she was pretty
Mm,
successful in terms of like she's been like selling to Massey for maybe a good over 5 years and so on. Like she has
Really?
her business set, but
nice.
it's really like now she's looking at, because I mean agriculture is one thing, like the raw product is one thing, but definitely if you could get an agro processed good, like a good one, look at Barron's pepper sauce for example,
Right.
then
Mm-hmm.
you're winning. That's just a whole nother ball game. So a few of them are going into that, and then we have the in between. We have like some of the women who were traditional market vendors, and now we sort of been able to ploy them away from that and being able to get them contracts maybe with Massey or of, well, before a few of the hotels and restaurants. So instead of like hauling, the traditional thing of going there at 3 in the morning, waiting all day, selling, having to barter with people and so on,
Yeah.
now you can actually get a contract, and then you can actually, instead of, a lot of times with farmers, especially women farmers, they don't document things. They don't, especially finance. So
Mm.
in the moment when they want to try and, for example, go to a bank and get a loan, or in one case of one of my farmers trying to prove that she was actually a farmer at the U.S. Embassy to get a visa,
Wow.
she technically didn't have that, and that's one thing that limits them a lot, is that a lot of them don't have that financial footprint because it's just all cash.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, or in some instances, for a few of our women, they put everything under the husband's name. So, like,
Mm.
maybe the
Mm,
husband started, like, she married him and they were like doing it together. And then traditionally, she just thinks, oh, you go get certified. And we just, we're working together as a team. And in two cases, um, two of the women lost their husbands unexpectedly. And one woman, like, basically she had to start from scratch because she technically couldn't
Wow.
prove that for 20 odd years she was actually farming, with alongside her husband and so on. And it's just really sad because, I guess at that time you think, okay, this person might be there and I'll be secure and things will be okay. And then life throws you curveballs all the time. And as women, I just always say that, you just have to be secure. Just like men, you just have to sort of have your business or whatever you have in check, because God forbid something happens and you have to start all over. But yeah, that's that's the profile of a few of the women.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is this is really close to something I'm actually working on. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
one of the things you also hear about, especially you saying cash crops, right,
Mm,
is that one of the problems we've heard, at least from Vernon's father, is going into some cash crops and even bananas, right? One of the things a lot of the farmers are subject to in this day and age is a lot of theft.
mm-hmm.
Uh, is that a huge problem that your farmers have to deal with, or what are maybe some other things they experience like that?
For my farmers, luckily, like they've experienced pretty elasticity here and there, but not so much. I think they've smartened up. Like some of them, they have workers, so they would have like a shift system. Some of them, like the farm is like in their backyard, not too far away.
Okay.
What I have seen is that during COVID, like during the lockdown, remember that the first 2 weeks, there was
Okay.
definitely like some farmers who lost a few crops because they couldn't go anywhere, and well, the thieves
Yeah.
decided they could. Um,
Mm,
but in general, not too much. I wouldn't say like it seems like they've got it down packed where like they will go at certain times, and then other times maybe they have like male workers and so on. So like they go do it in shifts. and so on. But I mean, in agriculture, that's just something that you sort of have to expect. I
Okay.
mean, once it's not on a large scale, you know what I mean? Because there's definitely, I've heard of stories where some people have just been wiped out. You know
Right.
what I mean? But thankfully for some of the women, no, they haven't dealt with that. And again, too, rural communities, I don't know about you, but like in Foasa, okay, if somebody go on, let's say my grandfather land, and then he go and pick coconuts, for some reason, somebody like, let's say we say, okay, there was coconut missing or something. The village crowd, whoever like is the most talkative in
Somebody
the
didn't know.
village, will say, "Oh, who Savio Vole, whatever, whatever." They steal Rufus coconuts and blah blah blah. So if any coconuts being sold, that's his like.
That's not true.
I love that you use that term, the village crier, because that's the perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
similar for Denry.
Oh yeah, oh boy, Denry,
Every
man.
community.
So,
I
There's
love
always
that
that
stuff.
person that know.
Mhm.
so here's my question. I know St. Lucia is having a little drought and
Hmm.
whatnot.
Yeah,
How have your farmers, the people you working with, how have they been
affected.
handling
Yeah.
or coping with that? Because I know, like, someone like
Mhm.
my father crying right now because he's saying, boy, his farming estate. I know he must have been happy with the rain that came down last week, but
Mhm. Luckily for some of the women, like especially the ones who just took the course, we had like a someone who was touting, like water conservation and so on and investing in like water tanks and stuff like that.
yeah,
And then God thankfully like there was this SLDB, they had some water tank program like where you could do it on
yes,
financing. So
yeah,
a few of them right before COVID and the drought took up like about 10 of them like got into that whole financing program and got water tanks. And then a lot of them have invested and are using that. And then there's a few that they actually have like sort of like water coming direct from a river source, like so they run some pipes to their farm. So
yeah.
now with the drought, like obviously the river is probably dry and so on, but I haven't heard too many issues,
Okay,
like,
okay.
but with the rain and so on, it's still like difficult because even with the water and stuff like that, you could just see like the ground, the soil has been super dry.
So yeah,
Yeah, so, but it hasn't been, I mean, it's been weird because with COVID, at first it was like we did this whole home delivery, like fresh direct model, and it was
okay,
going good. And then the zoning came in.
Mm.
Oh,
So,
okay.
which like messed up everything because it started showing you that like places like, for example, Fort Jacques in Soufrière, that's like St. Lucia's breadbasket in terms
Hmm.
of produce.
Agricultural land. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
like it's so the land there, I mean, maybe because it's volcanic soil or something, but
Yeah,
the
it's
land there
rich.
is so, yeah, so fertile. And there's a lot of vendors coming from there. So that messed up a lot of things. But then you started seeing like the desperation in people because Massey was only buying a certain amount of produce.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
in a way, it worked to the advantage of the farmers because then they were like selling, they were able to sell, and at a little more than usual and stuff. But like the zoning and all of that and the curfew and yeah, it sort of put things at a halt. But now it's opened up, so it's more flexible.
Yeah, someone was telling me that farmers benefited for a certain period
Mm-hmm.
because fruits that they had ordered in when the lockdown came out, they had like a
Mm-hmm.
ton of wastage from stuff that they had ordered in, strawberries and
Yeah.
all kinds of exotic stuff they had brought in. And
Mm-hmm.
like they really had to fall back, sadly, on not sadly that they had to, but sadly that they weren't doing it before,
Yeah.
on local produce more.
Yeah. I mean, even like, for example, a lot of the large scale farmers, and that's not even like only in Helen's Daughters, but outside. I know this one person who sells to, I think lettuce to like KFC. Immediately you saw him doing like lettuce delivery and stuff like that. And because they have this huge amount, like imagine you selling 200 pounds of lettuce one day, and then all of a sudden they can't take in that lettuce. So who are you going to sell it to? So a lot of farmers were left with like a ton of produce on their hands and sort of like looking for markets. But thankfully, I think to the panic buying, in a way it did help because people just started going crazy like the first month of COVID in St. Lucia. I remember we couldn't set up shop like in Castries or whatever because of the I can't remember why. But people were literally coming to my house in Faso, wherever they coming from, just to buy produce like from the women and so on. So
Wow.
yeah, it definitely
So
it's
how are you doing it, Keithlin? You were kind of pulling it all and doing like a basket with a variety of things, or
no, actually, what we were doing is that we would have like a produce list. I've seen
okay,
like some other models where they do like the like a
bountiful
produce,
basket kind of, yeah.
right? But for us, no, we were doing our produces because it was based on what our farmers had. You
Okay,
know what I
okay.
mean? Yeah.
And did you do just a website or an app? You did some kind of technology like ordering, did you not?
We did a
Google Form.
website.
Okay.
We did a website and it's called Green Gold, and then people were ordering through there. But you know how Saint Lucians are, well, in the Caribbean, so it was like only like 5% were using like the card option, but a lot of them
Everybody
were,
Okay.
wanted.
yeah, like
Cash.
cash upon
Yeah.
arrival, which is fine. But then it like proved a concept which was I was happy about, but at the same time, it's like the whole e-agriculture thing is like difficult working with farmers because especially in a time like that because we've produced to like when we sold out all our female farmers produce, then it's like okay, they're going back to planting and doing this, and then it's like all right, so when are you harvesting and doing it, and then you realize that okay, you need to have like some idea like a harvest projection
True, yeah.
tool or something, you know what I
Rough
mean?
Supply
equipment.
chain management.
Exactly.
Yep,
Uh,
supply chain
and
management.
an agricultural supply chain management is, well, you already know it's even more difficult because then it's like each produce is different. Like cucumbers is
Mhm.
6 weeks,
Hmm.
pineapples is whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
that definitely takes more time to build out and to analyze and stuff like that. But still, at least it proved like the concept and it proved that solutions were willing to go out there and get fresh produce and stuff like that. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, Kiflan, we know you're, employed full time with the UN, right? But this is, a passion project for you, and obviously something that takes a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
um, Now that you're in St. Lucia, obviously you can dedicate more physical time on the ground to it. But I guess back when you were, here in the States and to now, like, what does your kind of day to day interaction and work on Helen's Daughters look like, right? So, how much, like, what's your team size
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
how how many, like, what's the touch point level with you and the farmers and that kind of thing in terms of dependency on you, or is it just registering for the programs and communications of like what you're offering and that kind of thing?
So if I didn't have a team, well, I would not survive. I think I would be a nutcase. Um, especially when we like started like the six month training program. I have
Mm-hmm.
like a team of 8 people, and it's like gender balanced. There's four guys on there who have in some way like their mothers, their aunties, whatever, like are involved in agriculture. So it's like they are connected and they get the whole idea of it. And then there's four other women. So when I'm away, they're literally like juggling the day to day of connecting with the women, contacting them. Like if we sort of have like a little, well, not a little, but we have a project coordinator that that's the only paid person that we have technically with us right now, and she is like sort of our support system. So we try to provide like linkages and support. For example, if there's like some type of financial package for farmers, like the SLDB thing, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or if there's a special insurance, or if simple things like even writing a proposal letter to Massey, or even helping them, like right now the social stabilization program, they're offering like $500 to farmers and stuff like that.
Right.
Some of them are not necessarily like digitally literate, so helping them with the forms and processing it and so on. So thankfully, like there's people here who can do that, but definitely as I've been home, it's like they're like, all right, okay, you're home, so here you go. You can you can take on a bit more of this, which is fine because I mean I've really been trying my best like to see how I can get home so that because I really like, I think with Helen's daughters, one of the things that we like is that it's sort of like a family in a way. I don't think women farmers have, or rural women have really gotten a sense of like a support network. Like you
Yes.
should even like see, like we did a graduation for the program at the British High
Love the
Commission.
green jackets, by the way. If
Yes, girlfriend. Yes.
but I think even that was such a nice touch
Yes.
because it's even like there's so much power in a jacket,
Mm-hmm. You
especially
get
like
it.
as a business professional woman and stuff like that. And
Anyway,
these rural women farmers, if that's the primary thing they do, how often do they get to dress up in a jacket or maybe
Yep.
the
Listen,
perception of them,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
that's the
Let's
main thing.
and let's say even if you're thinking a farmer is going to meet with Massey, or whatever, some people may not think the farmers coming in their suits and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
whatever.
and seriously, it's like even I remember the first time when I did like a needs assessment exercise. We did like a little workshop and stuff,
Hmm, hmm.
and some other women were like, when they go to the banks, like the way they get treated. Like one woman was like, every time she goes to a certain bank or whatever, the way that people treat her and stuff like that. That even to the point, and this was one of the women that she had done like a little hydroponics system, was actually like making good
Oh,
money in the
nice.
market and whatever, and they wouldn't even give her a chance just off of like looks and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
that's also what we fighting against, is like in a way to say, to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
farming sexy,
Prejudice, yeah.
and the prejudice that goes with it, because like that's the image that people have. And number one, like, I mean, to be a good human being, you shouldn't be looking down on anybody, you know
Well,
By the way, just
my
just just my marketing mind, you just said make farming sexy. I just thought of a whole like calendar
Photo
of
shoot
sexy,
campaign.
yeah,
well,
sexy women farmers each month with a
right?
different produce:
yeah, but
pineapple, pawpaw.
Right.
here's my thing. I don't know why we have this like we look down on farmers.
And that's what I
Like
was
that's where we
saying.
came from. That's where we
So many
started.
of us came from it,
Yeah.
No, and that's the crazy thing. Like, I remember, like, that when I went to school, I won't say names and stuff, but there's people that, like, they go, their families come from agricultural families and stuff like that. And I remember when they found out where I was from and so on, it was like, oh, okay, she's from there. Like, oh, okay, I'm not really sure if that's who I want you to hang out with, like, based on where you're from. And that's another thing in St. Lucia. Already, like, even though 80% of St. Lucia is rural, but there's like a stigma attached to certain
It is.
communities
There
that
always
you're
has been,
from.
eh? Like even
It
just
is.
the
No, but
speech of telling somebody, oh, they from the country and
your
whatever,
country
whatever.
but
bouquet
listen,
and
that ain't
all
making
that.
sense too because at one point farmers had the most money. Farmers was
Yeah.
making
I'm
money.
telling you,
Farmers were
listen,
At,
rich.
but
when I
at
saw
Yeah.
that
at some point we
FDR
started focusing on looks.
license, go ahead, Adani.
I was saying at some point, right, the society became more about how you look
Yeah.
versus what you do. So you can literally walk into a bank with heels, a short skirt, and a dress suit, and you can get all doors opened. You
And
can
that's
be
why,
like a
yeah,
farmer making 4 times that person, and you'll get
which
nothing open to you.
happens. Which happens. And that's why, like, Anushka, I'm happy, like, you noticed the whole jacket thing. Because I was telling the women, like, one of the things that we're trying to do is sort of like
Empower.
reformulate their minds towards just saying, oh, I'm a market vendor, I'm a farm. I'm like, no, agricultural entrepreneur. okay, when you go in,
Yes.
like when you go, this is what you do.
Yes.
Like, even though it's like why should they have to do that? But at the same time, I'm like, this is an unfair world that we live in. So what we're going to do, we're going to use it against them. And it's sort of like training them, like how to go into meetings, how to go into even financial institutions or wherever they go in, the way you dress, the way you present yourself. And a lot of women, like you had said, Anushka, probably some women never felt like recognized and whatever. And that was a huge thing. Like, there's one woman in the group and she's like 70 something, but she's done well in farming. And this lady was like, I've never been to like a ceremony. And then
Mm-hmm.
having like the British High Commissioner talk to her, get her picture taken. And then we have our little like her story campaigns, like profiling
Mm-hmm.
each farmer. This lady was like, if I die today, I want to get buried in that jacket. And I was like,
Oh
oh
my
my
God.
God. Like, you don't even know like what that did for me. I was like, okay, if you're ever thinking like give up, just think of that and just keep going. But
That's
it's sad because y'all are so right. Like, we were built off of agriculture, and all of a sudden it's like now we want to spit on the same thing that brought us to where we are, that was able to allow us to build houses and buy all these nice cars we were
Yeah,
well, and
driving
I think
around.
yeah, that's
Yep.
big.
honestly,
That led the UK give us how much money
well, and
for building
honestly,
roads and
I
infrastructure.
think
Hey,
some
Yeah.
of the erosion of it actually came from the farmers themselves, right? Because they did the farming, they did the hard life, and they wanted to send their children off to something better,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
also them wanting better, and I guess kind of even seeing how the world was changing or whatever. They thought, okay, farming is not what it is, that's not what I want for my children. But then they get stuck with not having succession plans for all of this land
Yep.
and all of these things. And then you find, especially what's happening with a lot of these old people, because their children go off wherever and, leave and whatnot. They have a lot of people come in and preying on these older people and aligning
Mm-hmm.
themselves with these older people just to get their land.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of working with my parents on the ancestry stuff and whatever. I was getting, hearing stories about, people who've aligned themselves with older people and endeared themselves to older people to set them up to inherit their land, and they end up putting the people in homes after they
Yep.
get the power of attorney and whatever sign of. But it's all of this agricultural land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
so I
Yes.
have a
Yes.
question. You go ahead, Danny. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying that's like a huge issue I can imagine in Denver and other rural places.
Yeah.
Like a lot of places on like in the village, people have
Mm-hmm.
died and they have left no succession plan,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
some sneak is in the middle of trying to like
Swindle their way
inherit,
there.
he
Mm-hmm.
swindle their way into whatever was left there. So what you'll find, like, there are a lot of abandoned buildings where the
Mm-hmm.
people have died and their kids are living their life in the UK or the US, and like just dilapidated buildings, and nobody has rights to it other than them,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not doing anything with it. And then if
Well,
they die, then like it's just lost land, and then somebody can come in there. I think we have a 10-year law,
mhm.
right, where you can come in, and then if you spend 10 years there, the land is yours. So they all kind of like nasty stuff going on.
Yeah,
Well,
but
and I
then
think
so we need like a lot of land reform, because like I think our land reform is under Napoleonic Code, and that whole, for example, the whole family land. So
mhm.
that's just like a nightmare in
You're
itself.
talking about when it's family land and it's shares and all of them have to come
Exactly.
together.
And like, let's say you have to probate it and then it's basically like divide it equally and so on.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the majority of, like, well, at least rural families, they are facing a situation like that. And what that
Mhm.
causes? Drama. Like, if there
Yep.
is one conflict, the reason of conflict, especially in rural areas, is rights
Land.
over land.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
So I
Very
have a
true.
question. I have a question for you, Keithlin. How has how has the government assisted, I guess, with your whole endeavor, your like, have they offered any assistance? Just curious.
Uh, okay, I'm going to use my UN training in this.
Yeah,
Hey.
politically correct. Okay.
I'm going to be quite diplomatic.
Diplomatic.
Well, obviously, I'm in the non governmental sphere, so I don't expect necessarily government support
No,
in
no, no,
layman's
no. Well,
terms.
so yeah.
In,
I didn't mean it like that.
no,
I
no,
meant
no,
like
no, 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 no.
do
I
you
know what you
find a lot
mean.
of programs in place and stuff like that. That's what
No,
I meant.
I was just joking. I'll be very blunt. No, we haven't received any support from government. I, I mean, I
Uh,
don't know why. I didn't really expect it, to be honest.
Okay.
It's definitely a question that comes up every time I speak somewhere, and it's awkward because you know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah.
to say,
I
but
know
I
what
want
you
to be
mean. Yeah,
honest at the same time,
yeah.
yeah,
like, so
Yeah, no,
no.
no, no. It
yeah.
wasn't my intention to put you on the spot. It was, just my thinking that for I think such a good initiative, I would think that they would have
Well,
programs and stuff.
one thing. Keithlin's a local. She's a young person.
She's a black woman.
She's focusing on a sector that needs help and
Yeah,
development, and is a segment that's underserved.
yeah, yeah.
There's so many points where you think of, she's helping integrate technology and
And
stuff
yeah,
like
all
that,
I
which
hear
is
all
Yeah,
this.
yeah, but you saying agriculture, so that's already a turn off. It's
yeah,
not.
but
She's developing, not developing new hotels. Like, come on now.
Yeah, but
And
that shouldn't be the case because I feel like that's such a good thing going on there.
well, I
You've
guess
given
that's,
people
I
these
mean,
skills
the
and
fortunate thing is Keithlin is skilled where she's skilled and has the background in
yeah,
the UN to know that there are grants and agencies and
yeah, man.
other places
That
that she can
Willing to
look
help.
for.
that's
Yeah.
one thing I'm surprised about, because I would at least think that some wizened politician would be like, she works with the UN. If I can show her some support, then that could bode well for me in the future. Like how people think, like
yeah, yeah,
like
but I
somebody would be
mean,
like UN.
yeah, but ask yourselves, like, and this is just like in general, like not even picking on political parties, but is that really common in the last 10 years to see parties really
Nope.
take a lot of young people under their arms and like mold them and so on? At
Right.
least for
Not
me,
unless
that's what.
it's not unless it's some medial task, no.
Oh,
I mean,
exactly.
in all honesty, I thinking about it and I check in. My question was kind of true because when I hear my father telling me just to get an extension officer to come out to his farm to survey is like
Imagine.
yeah, it's
No,
like he damn near have to kidnap the extension officer and bring
this
him there. So I mean, I,
let's not even bring the
yeah,
extension.
yeah, for sure. Let's not go
No,
there.
I feel bad. Because it's like I know there's not that many extension officers, and it's like a few of them to hundreds of farmers.
Like,
So it's like I get that part, but at the same time, that's just one of the problems. Like in some countries like Taiwan and so on, the whole extension agency is like sort of like a statutory agency, like in a way like a SLASPA. So it's
Okay.
like
okay,
it's public private.
Right.
So if there's that private sector backing and so on, people would actually do their job, because it's like, all right, if I don't do this, I won't get paid. You know what I mean? Like there's
yeah,
some
Mhm.
type of impetus to do your job. But with public service, it's like, I'm going to get paid regardless. So I could
Yeah,
see one farmer for the week, I could see 10. Either way,
yeah.
I get my money at
Yeah,
the
but
end of
that's
the
we
month.
valid.
really need reform in our public service as well,
Oh
right? Because
yes,
there's so many
totally.
jobs where, like people just don't care because they get a salary, and they don't going to kill themselves for you, whatever, whatever. Like,
This is
imagine my granddad passed, and he still has not been able to get his land officially on his name.
That's
Like,
crazy.
and it's a governmental agency that was in charge of that, and they have been disbanded. They had been rebranded since, and it's still a problem. Like, you still need a lawyer, you need this, you
Mhm.
need that. Like,
let me tell
it's
you.
just a mess.
let me tell you, when my father's an extension officer, my father tell me he used to make it his business to go to everybody farm,
Mhm.
because he said the one thing that used to happen, he go to the farm and the farmer tell him, "Oh, come, let's eat some lunch." You
But
know,
listen,
the
you
farmer
so
tell me up in
right.
the heights with Rasta,
Listen,
it's all kind of, you know.
man, my grandfather's telling me, like, for example, Primus Hutchinson, he was an extension officer, and he's like, oh yeah, I know your grandfather, your grandmother used to feed us. And so I'm just like asking my grandfather, like, okay, so what's up with that? Like, you all used to be having weekly, like, large gatherings. Basically, my grandfather's like, at one point, five extension officers, even some teachers from the school, like would come, or let's say a Wednesday, my grandmother make a huge pot of bouillon, everybody eats in it, and take into their
Wow.
home.
My father stopped being an extension officer and became the director of agriculture, and he still used to go on people's farms,
Mhm.
doing
And
the
that's
same.
the thing. Like, that's what we need. Jobs like that, like, you need community relations. Like, people
Hmm.
need to know who the extension officer is, like, the name of that. Just like a social transformation officer, your
Hmm.
job is to be known in the community, not to be at a desk. You understand
Exactly.
me?
Yeah,
And that's not the case in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
very
Well, and
true.
I think, there's so many gaps, right? I think even just from the okay, like we said, there was the familial break from agriculture,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
where
Mhm.
families drifted away. People lost their connection to farms and all of that. And even if that's the case, and we live in a more urbanized kind of setting these days, um there's still no there's still not as much exposure to agriculture even in the schools, right? It's only
Mhm.
Hmm.
certain schools that have exposure to it, or anything like that at all, right? So you can
Mhm.
go your whole life now and not even have to pick up soil.
Mhm.
Your hands don't have to touch soil.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
So
you're so right.
it's like how it's a complete reshaping, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, the fact that I liked Caribbean history, and it keeps coming back to me that we do not have a St. Lucian history course where you learn
Mhm.
about the country and the progress, individually, and even have kids do projects in school about tracing their roots and stuff
And
like
what?
that, and not
Listen.
forgetting where we came from.
So I have a question because you say
But
you
that
say about,
education thing,
yeah,
right? Because sorry, yeah, Vernon's father also teaches
yeah.
at the community college, and a lot of the
Mhm.
kids who end up in his class, in the agricultural class, is
Mhm.
because they didn't get to make it to any other school. They
Exactly.
they didn't choose to do agriculture. It was just that
Mhm.
was the last resort, last option. So his father, who has a strong passion for agriculture and all of that, is frustrated a lot of the times when he has to teach, because he sees he's not getting through to people, because obviously they don't really
We want to be there.
care.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much in agriculture besides farming, because even the kids
Hmm.
who go to science
Yeah.
class,
Thank
right?
you.
Vernon's father is a scientist,
That's what
right?
I'm
The
saying.
mixing fertilizer, irrigation
The
system,
nutrients, the pH values, all of this,
exactly. All of that
man.
is science,
It's
right?
it's
So,
crazy how, because I was having a conversation with my granddad who's like 90 years old, and I was like, I just randomly asked him, so how, because he was talking about like basically like slope agriculture. So you know how like the Incas would have like those
Yeah. On the
mhm,
beds
slope.
on
Yeah,
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 the
yeah.
mountain. So
Yeah.
he
Terrace,
had,
yes.
terrace kind of, yeah.
yeah, so he had one, and I was like, if you saw the mountain, I was like, that was, how did you end up doing that? So then he was like, oh, I actually learned this at school. And I was taken aback. I was like, I thought
Mm,
you learned that from your grandfather. He said, no, at school they would give you lessons, and they would actually also take you out to the field to do practicals. My grandfather was born in 1931. So
mm.
you mean to tell me St. Lucia is like, our agricultural education was more advanced in the 50s and the 40s than it is in the
Well, and
That
2000s?
is exactly what I was coming and talk about, because I was going to ask you all. I'm sure when you all went to St. Joseph Convent, Y'all didn't have anything about agriculture.
I
They
No.
have
didn't
never
okay.
taken an agricultural class until now, and that's on the
It's
side because
unladylike.
I'm in agriculture. Like,
We
It's
had
unladylike.
agri. We had agri, and all the lady did was come to the class and teach right on the board. We never
Oh,
actually went
really?
out in a field
Nah,
and do
we
it
went down once,
once.
one time,
But
and I
Exactly.
was looking forward to agriculture, you know.
mm,
but
and the,
there are schools that have it. Like I know, I think Compre, like they have agriculture and stuff. But that's one of the things that we want to do. Is like 2021. God knock on wood if we get that grant funding. We want to do like a school club at SJC where we
mm,
like get the girls to actually like to
Yes.
have
okay.
like a garden and then to sell like their fruits and vegetables whatever to
Right,
the
right.
canteen, so maybe they get a discount on their
Exactly.
food
So
or
that's what I
something
was
like
gonna
that.
say, Caitlin, because I feel like that is a huge missed opportunity for sustainable development
Mhm.
within the schools.
Okay.
If every school has a agricultural class that has a garden that they end up
Hmm.
using the produce from
Mhm.
that in the canteen, it creates a whole self-sufficient
All
ecosystem
right.
within
Exactly.
the schools and exposes the kids to, grow what you eat, oh,
Look at
wait, did I say
this.
that right? Eat
Exactly.
what you
Eat what
grow.
you
Oh.
grow.
What you do.
Look at this.
Very true.
No,
Why we
So
Very,
need a
very
water?
true.
absolutely.
That,
okay,
like, that
right.
should be like primary school. You should be agriculture
Yeah.
all throughout school.
I'm telling
So,
you,
and
like
Like agriculture should
especially
be
in a
like math.
country like ours, like it should be like
Agriculture should be
basic
math.
education. Yeah, no lie, it
Yeah,
should be,
100%.
because then
yeah.
you have a lot of great minds like okay, think about it, there's a lot of people that go through the school system, like even like me, and you wondering like what do I do, what am I good at, and I'm like, now at my age I'm like, okay, I actually have a love for it, doing like the whole hydroponics course and stuff like that. And I'm seeing like I never enjoyed sciences, and I'm looking at certain things, I'm like, yo, this is science. And I
mhm,
actually like it. And I noticed like it's something practical that maybe it's the sort of I'm seeing something grow, or the fact that I can eat it. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, what would have been my career path then if I had actually been introduced to agriculture at an earlier age? Instead
And
of just seeing my grandparents like work
yeah,
super hard and not being interested in it at all. You know what I
mhm,
mean?
but here's my thing. Also, it teaches people, the value of things. Because at the end of the day, you can grow something and feed yourself.
mhm.
Mhm.
You,
Oh,
you
this is
know,
what I was
Mhm.
going to say that I just remembered. My grandfather worked, let's call it, he was a prison warden, let's call it,
okay,
right?
okay.
But you'll hear that and you'll say, what the hell? He must have real been a real hard ass walking through a jail and whatnot. That's not what he did. Because he was a farmer and, did whatever in the war and all of that. He was working for the prisons, but what he was doing is he was bringing the prisoners out to farms in Moshi and wherever, and having the prisoners
Mhm.
work on land and produce food.
Okay.
So it was in different parts of the country and whatever. He was bringing prisoners, and even that's how he met my grandmother. My grandmother was working on one of the
Your grandmother
farms,
is a
and
prisoner?
no,
Oh,
no, but
Prisoner of love.
no, but they had the land, let's say a community in Moshi, they had the land and they'd bring the prisoners out there, but they also had women, rural women, Keithlin, from the community also
Yes,
helping
okay.
mhm.
process and package the things that the prisoners were reaping, harvesting, whatever. So even there, I'm not sure what is done, at Bodley or how much is done at Bodley. But it seems even that back then it was done on a much larger scale because there were
Okay.
multiple farms
Yeah.
he had them go into. And I don't think he was the only one.
And that's actually rehabilitation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
that's the thing. It gives them a skill
e-
if they,
thank
once
you.
When
they.
person come
And
out, they
then
can be a farmer.
Mm-hmm,
yeah, you can leave. Okay, people. I mean, people in Saint Lucia, we already know if it's bad in the States, far less for getting out of prison in Saint Lucia. It's tough to get a job if you have a record and so on. So at least you have that skill. And let's say if you have farmland, but then too, my problem is that in Saint Lucia, like the same issue of land. There was some government projects where even from Sir John's time where there was like land banks and stuff like that, which before there were like, for example, you all know the Orchid Center in
Uni-
just
uni-
before going to the cinemas.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Union.
In
Yeah,
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 Union,
yeah.
yeah,
that
yeah.
place was basically like a land bank. Like I knew like grand aunts and uncles who would go there. They have their little plot or whatever, grow stuff and take
Mm,
it to the market to sell and stuff like that.
okay.
Like no, like hundreds of farmers used to do that, and we don't have that now. I heard there was some type of land bank, but apparently nobody can use that land bank. I don't know why. I will not even try to wonder why.
Hmm.
But it's like that's the problem too. We have a bunch of land, crown land, government land sitting there
Utilize. Yep.
Yeah.
doing nothing.
Mhm.
Why?
Like, just waiting for the next big hotel.
Meanwhile, our food bill
Mm.
just keep
Man,
going up and up and up.
And
yeah,
people,
watch the parody.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, don't tell me about La Parody.
I
Do
just
not.
passed that place
Oh
not
my
too long
God.
ago and I wanted to die.
Let me
Like,
let me tell you how they sold a parody to the people of Denry and Miku. And like, yeah, it's gonna be so amazing. Like, when this hotel is there, these people are going to come in your communities and they're going to put the dollar in your communities and you're going to be able to come and work there. Look at La Parody now.
a
The
hotel
only
like
people
the
that are working at La
parody.
Parody is Fidelis and Book Constrictor. That's the only people that are
Thank
working at
you.
La Parody.
Thank you. And they're working hard, I hear.
We're working
Oh,
hard.
extra hard. Extra hard. Extra hard. They more prison guard than Anushka.
Them are working overtime.
As soon as you come to the fence, you just hear, sir, hello, sir, back up.
Oh my god.
But I don't know if I'm too progressive, but like I'm literally thinking like if somebody want to come and build a hotel, like tell them, hey, I don't need any more hotels, but I have a place that is dilapidated. It was going to be a hotel, but you can get that piece of land because it was already designated for that.
Mhm.
Like, why are you giving somebody a whole new set of land to build a whole new hotel?
And
Like,
Danny, it's
just
not actually
look, the
progressive.
parody.
You're not progressive, boy. You're logical. That's what it is.
Exactly.
And what you're saying is not. What you're saying is nothing crazy or far fetched. It's very logical what you're
Although
saying.
in St. Lucia, Vernon, that's what they like us to think that we are, we're over the edge when we
Well,
think
we over
logic is
the edge. Yeah. Once you see you start applying logic for them in Saint Lucia, you out of bounds. You out of order. You crazy. What you're saying is
Mhm.
out of this world. It's not.
there.
Let me say, I'm not saying tourism cannot exist in St. Lucia, but it should not exist as a detriment of
Well,
everything
and
else. And I think
Yeah.
tourism and agriculture can exist in a
exactly what I
balance.
was
That's
gonna
what
say is
I'm
we should be
saying.
focusing on sustainable tourism, right?
Yes.
That's
So
what
I
I
Mhm.
think
Yes.
mean.
why
That's what I mean.
besides just for farmers providing produce to the hotels, there should be even more like agricultural tours and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Bring in tourists, and it doesn't have to be a luxury thing, just connect them to the humble farmer, have them walk through, have them see what you do, bring them to a house and
Let me
cook them a
let's
bouillon
say
with
let me tell you
what
that. The
you
same
make.
way they just want to go on wine tours in the US,
Hmm.
go to vineyards and walk
Hmm.
around and
Hmm.
drink the wine and stamp on the grape
Yeah.
that they make it. Bring
Exactly.
them on a farm, make them
Yeah.
cut some bananas.
But
Yeah, and I
you
mean
could
Yep.
do that in the US. You go apple picking, you do all of that in the US,
Yep.
and that's not
Yep.
even fun. Like,
Agrotourism.
well,
yes,
and you see, not and Keithlin, you say the apple picking thing. The apple picking thing isn't for tourists; it's also for locals, right? It's
Yeah.
become a
exactly.
whole
Yeah.
tradition that in the fall we go apple picking, in the summer
Mm-hmm.
we go strawberry picking, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And it's a
Go
Orange.
Yeah.
banana picking in the
But
spring.
what's crazy though is that you see
I want
that
to go. I
model,
want to go plum picking in May. I miss
Okay.
that. I miss
All
that,
right.
y'all. I
You
miss
right?
go
it.
pick turkeys. Go and pick, you want to go and pick
But
breadfruit.
like people going over to Bali and all these countries and they paying like 100 US just to do these things.
But
Like,
listen, that model is there, but it's only open to certain people. Like for example, Hotel Chocolat. they
Uh,
have like
Mm.
something
That's why I
similar,
said it doesn't have to be luxury. And then
but
there's some other plantations or estates, sorry, in
mhm.
Kubaril.
a few of them,
Yes, I
right?
think
But
so.
what they do is so simple. It's and a lot of it is concentrated around the cocoa pod, right?
Yeah,
It's not around. There's so
Yeah.
but
many
that's
other
the thing is
things,
that
coconuts.
there's some farmers who try that, but it's like there's a lot of roadblocks, is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm. Okay.
Especially now, like with the new legislation on registering for almost everything. Um,
Charcoal.
like I've seen some farmers who have tried to like do that more. Even for example, the sky rides up in
Yeah.
Babono, right?
yeah.
So that
Yes.
passes my house, like the buses and stuff like that. So there was a few people who have reached out to them to say, like, okay, like, how about you do like some stopovers on farms? You can, have lunch, you can do something or whatever, and then go to sky rides. And the answer was
Hmm.
no. And so I was like, not happening. So
Right.
you literally just see big coasters go up, boom, and then
Hmm.
like go straight through. Like the people in the village are like some type of pariah or something. You know what I mean?
Wow. Now, is that something that is an issue with like legislation on the government end, or is it something that's an issue with the private business or private tour guide end? Like,
I
if
think
somebody
it's
were to come in as another tour company and be like, "Hey, we're just going to focus on agricultural tours," like they would not have that kind of
I
resistance.
think it's both because the thing is that, for example, like a lot of times it's an agreement between the hotels and sky rides.
Okay.
So in that thing, some hotels are like, no, we don't want this whole stopover. Or if you are doing it, you need to be registered to a certain tour company. Like, you know what I
Ah,
mean? The activity needs to be
okay.
there. Like, there's one place, uh, near Skyrights. How am I forgetting the name now? But anyway, it's like they do like they'll show them how to do farine and whatever during Junekwe or
Hmm.
they have events, but it's like off and on they have
Right.
Yeah,
tourism, not commonly,
not frequent.
not frequently
Yeah.
at all. And I
I
just
remember
think,
that used to be a big thing.
right?
I on several times, like when we were younger, we went on school tours and we would stop in
Mhm.
these places and see plants, make farine, make
Yeah,
cassava,
but it's
like do
like
all
now
kinds of stuff.
the whole village tourism is like you don't see it anymore. You see like the places they just bring them. Okay, you go in Sulphur Spring, you go in Botanical Gardens, you go in boom, 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 like the main known places. That's where we go in because I guess the mindset is the security of the tourists or whatever it is, and it's like, I mean, yes, there's crime in Saint Lucia, but we're pretty safe. You know what I mean? And if
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone
for the most part in the rural areas is like, like if they
Yes,
were really worried
especially the
about crime,
rural
like
areas. The
Hey, hear
people
that?
will beat
Rodney
the
Bay.
robbers for them, if anything.
Hey,
Exactly.
Just
you're more
Like
likely to
That's
get
their
robbed.
bread.
You're
That's
more
their
likely
bread.
to get robbed in Castries or Rodney Bay.
yeah, Rodney
yes,
Bay or
yes,
Brazil.
that is true.
Yep. Just going to put that out there.
No,
And they make
that's
it seem
true.
like going to a farm is such a taxing thing, like but I mean I think eventually like initiatives like yours will kind of help change the mindset because more and more young people are asking these questions like why aren't we doing this anymore, and it will just come full circle, like
Well,
where
listen,
agriculture will be big like it was in the 1900s.
well, they kind of getting forced to at this point
Mhm,
because you have this COVID hitting St.
mhm.
Lucia and the tourism industry taking the dive that it has taken. People are looking for alternative ways to make money, and I'm hoping that people wise up and see that you can make money in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
People need to buy food. People need to eat at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
and
think the
eat the
agro
right
processing
foods.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
is
and
a
it.
big
even
thing.
like,
Make money selling plantain chips if you want it.
People.
listen, you
Why
can
are
make
we
money.
in
Listen,
Lucia?
you can make money. Like for example, I've seen people. You can do like you have your little farm, right? You're not even trying to make a food. You're trying to make a face mask, okay?
Okay.
Or
Mm.
like like a body scrub or something. These are things that you can do, like the whole spa thing and whatever. I remember up at in the rainforest there was a certain flower that they a rare flower. And you know what's crazy when Skyrides took over? Um, Chanel, actually, that flower was one of the ingredients in Chanel number 5. So they actually
Wow.
export it to Chanel, like to the Chanel headquarters and whatever. I don't think anymore, but like these are things that you know what I mean. You can look
Mm,
into, like in South Korea, for
yeah.
example, where the beauty thing is huge. I know there's like one beauty company called Mamod, and they use quite a lot of like petals, flowers, and so on. To
Okay.
the point that they created like their own plantation, like of flowers, hibiscus, whatever, blah blah blah, and they're processing the plants into their products. So you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's it's not a traditional hard labor, blah blah blah. You could literally have a herb
Mhm.
garden, start making
And
those
essential oils.
concoctions. Exactly. All of
Essential
these
oils is a
things,
big
hair
market. Yeah.
products. Yeah. Like there's so
Well,
many
I
Mhm.
things
mean,
that you
even
can do.
here's another one we've taken for granted, but they were exporting it. Was it last year? CMOS, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Making dog,
Well,
you know,
listen,
in
y'all
Finland.
Yeah.
Now
know, your
now I
social
even
media
see
cat
purple
all loving
CMOS.
CMOS.
I don't even
Social media.
Wow. Purple sauce.
And to be honest with you, I don't believe like 3/4 of what these CMOs where they coming from is questionable.
All right.
Exactly.
Yeah, because social media catch hold of the CMOS boy. Now people in the US talking about CMOS
Yeah.
celebrity.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see my
see.
CMOS.
CMOS
Yeah,
gel, how
I'm
to make your
CMOS
own.
gummies. Like what?
I, I'm trying to see how we can substitute sargassum into that because there's so much of it around. Like it is in abundance right now.
And then
Johannan is the only person right now that has figured out how to
Yeah.
use sargassum.
I, I I see my dad researching stuff, so I know you could come up with something like like feed
and the fact,
animals or
Well,
something.
sargassum, to be honest, like it's, I mean, it's a good, like good for the land preparation and
Yep.
stuff like that. Like that's what I've honestly, that's really one of the only things I've seen in terms of sargassum.
Yeah, that's what my
Like,
father said.
yeah, because I know some women that they actually like take the seaweed and they don't even use the fertilizer. They just put it on their
Yeah.
land, prepare the land and so on,
Mm.
leave it for a couple days, take it off, blah blah blah. Yeah,
Ah, nice.
yeah.
That's
Keithlin,
good.
we could
That's good.
stay here with you
Mhm.
for hours.
Oh, I
Uh,
know, right?
why you were one of the when I've always been thinking about guests in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, I need to get Keithlin on it. Oh, need to get Keithlin on here. But we have so much we could talk about. But I'm sure this is just the first time you're coming on this podcast. I'm sure we'll bring you back. But just kind of as we wrap up, what can we expect to see for Helen's daughters? In the near future, coming year, provide knock on wood
Should I
with
ask you
COVID.
what's your short term and long term goal? What's your 5 years?
Well, and then, where can people find you and
Yeah.
follow you, help?
Help.
Do
Yeah.
you have, do you take donations, or I don't know how you guys work?
Yes, we do. Uh,
More money.
but
I keep out.
to talk about like the plans and stuff like that, like I mentioned, the whole food club thing, that's something that we're trying to do in like primary schools and secondary schools coming 2021. And what we're trying to do too is expand a bit more from not only like women in farming, but mentorship and sort of like support for rural women in general. There's a lot of like social ills that plague women in, like rural communities. There's not much guidance and so on, or sometimes very
Mhm.
strong parental figures. So we're trying to draw up like some flagship programs targeting like younger women in those communities as well. On like the women's side, the farmers side and so on, we're trying to do a social enterprise. So like we said, the whole home delivery thing, we're trying to boost that up to a point where we can have like a processing plant and we can try to do like deliveries island wide and blah blah blah. So that's going to take some time, but fingers crossed it works out. And people can reach us on Instagram at helensdaughters.slew. On Facebook, same thing. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us info@helensdaughters.org. And on all those pages, you'll see like our donation links. Oh, and our website, www.helensdaughters.org as well. And I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. I think it was long because I haven't spoken to you guys in so long, so it felt like catching up too, which was really nice.
Yeah. Well, as I
Likewise.
said, Keithlin, I'm sure, this is just the first time you're gonna join us on the podcast, and I only see great things for what you're doing, and we're really proud,
Yeah.
seeing the progress you've been
Agriculture
making.
in St. Lucia need a lot more people like you, eh?
Yeah.
That's for
Thank
sure.
you.
Especially the women. So
Hmm.
keep doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Thank you, and keep up that good work, guys. I mean, when you did the podcast, I was really happy. I was like, damn, that's a good idea. I wish I thought of that. But we really needed that. Like, I think you guys definitely give like a voice to the voiceless, and I think like it's honestly like a fearlessness about the three of you too as well that we need in Saint Lucia, because the people that do talk, it's always like politically aligned, and it's kind of
Yeah.
refreshing to just have a medium that's
Neutral.
just balanced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, and keep up the fantastic work, guys.
Well, guys, it's been
Oh,
another
thank you.
episode. While Danny's being all emotional, sentimental, it's been another episode of the Caribbean Millennial. Wow.